good.
Welcome to the Black Hills Podcast, everybody. Today, my awesome guest is Sean Covel,
What's up, man?
Mr. Hollywood.
Oh, I don't know about that. I'm happy to be in the middle of South Dakota. Though I got to tell you, I've done some podcasts and stuff. I've never been in a professional podcast setup in a business setting. Things usually somebody's basement. You're hoping their mom doesn't yell down the staircase. But you got it all set up here. This is fancy.
Thanks, man. Thanks. That means a lot. You, for those that don't know, and I'm sure you're sick of hearing this, but your legacy is Napoleon Dynamite.
Yeah. It's more than a career-defining movie. It's a life-defining movie, and I'm okay with that.
It's a milestone in production history. In production, because it was a budget of $400,000 around there.
Yep.
And you guys made just box office 46 mil.
Not so bad.
That's not so bad.
That's not so bad. That's more than 400,000, which is really the goal.
But that's box office. That's not worldwide. That's not with the sales of, because at the time when it came out, which was like 06, 04.
I think it was last week. It's very relevant, very new. It's a very new film.
But that was when people used to rent movies too.
Yeah.
And that's when people actually used to go to theaters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, we did $137 million on DVD. We were the number 4 selling DVD the year that we came out. We were beaten by, we beat Star Wars. We were beaten by Incredibles and Incredibles widescreen as 2 different films because that's how Pixar does it.
That's huge.
That's huge.
That's huge. You beat Star Wars.
They weren't the good Star Wars at that time. They were the crappy Star Wars.
Do you think that movie would have worked now, like in 2020, if you guys would come out with it?
I mean, I think it would, because one of the things that we're proud of with Napoleon, it accidentally became timeless because it's set out here in the middle, and most people don't really, know that world. So they're like, when is this time? Is it the 80s? But there was the internet, but it's dial-up internet. So when is this taking place? And we're like, exactly.
I didn't know either, and I was getting so frustrated because we just watched it again to up on it. And me and my girlfriend and I was like, when is this taken? I was like, this is frustrating.
Yeah, but you grew up out here. You know how it works.
Yeah.
We're a little behind the curve.
We really are behind the times.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's okay.
You're from Newcastle.
I was born in Newcastle, so I spent a good solid 3-4 days there, and then I grew up in Edgemont.
Oh, so
Southern Hills.
Wow, that is Black Hills.
It is.
Edgemont.
We proudly declare that, and everyone proudly resists it because we're a little south. Somebody said that Custer was Southern Hills. I became violent at that idea. The hell it is.
A lot of times when people think of the Southern Hills, they do think Custer because of the history. That's where the tourists go.
Yeah, well, screw them, because we have we have uranium. So you want a light show? Yeah, it's like the Aurora Borealis, except from the ground. It's fine. It's all good.
We got uranium.
We got uranium.
We can build atomic bombs.
We can.
Okay, growing up in Edgemont, growing up in the Black Hills, did you ever think that you would accomplish things that you accomplished?
I always wanted to tell stories. I always wanted to make movies. I mean, part of that is, I'm 6'4", and I will trip over my shoelaces on any given Tuesday. Yeah. I'm not built for sports, I guess, is the point. My coach once said that I'm built like a table, all leg, no movement. And if you don't do the sports thing in a small town, you kind of find a different path. And for me, that was like comedy, and I had a radio show and doing that kind of thing. I loved to run for student council because I could just get up and do stand-up for 20 minutes.
You were Pedro.
I was Pedro. Yeah. I was a combination of Napoleon and Pedro. and so I had to kind of find a different path, and I loved writing plays and doing plays and stuff like that. So when I did undergrad, which was in a mowed down chunk of cornfield in Nebraska, I studied theater, studied acting, but I also was into radio ad sales and stuff because I could take all my buddies from the theater department and we could do crazy ads and stuff. And the next step of that was making movies, but I didn't know how to get there from here. So I don't know. It's been a good ride and I like it, but in as much as it's been a great ride, I love riding that thing back here and getting to base out of South Dakota again.
Yeah. Did you ever produce something like, I mean, shot in Hollywood?
Have I? Gosh, I've done
One of the studios down there?
I've done 10 movies, and only one has shot in Los Angeles. The only studio picture that I've done, I guess I did two, shot up in Canada. The other one shot in Maine. And there was a small studio picture that we did out in Australia. But those are all small movies. So now I've not done Avengers. It is trippy to go to like Universal Studios to work and stuff. That's not my experience as an indie filmmaker, so it's pretty fun when it happens.
Indie film
Yep.
or contract, huge Hollywood? What suits you better?
You know what? You do one for them and one for you. If you can balance a career where you're making a big popcorn movie and then balance it out with something that's close to your heart, like Napoleon was, or any of the independent films I've done, you can maintain a lot of career longevity. I just haven't done the popcorn movies. You know, my films have all been for the price of one day's worth of catering on a studio picture.
Are you gonna try in the future? You
know, do I want to make studio pictures? I don't know if I do. Because the job of a producer on a big studio picture is so different than the job of a producer on an independent film.
It is.
Yeah,
There's
you know how it is.
A lot more management on independent film, showing them how to do things and making sure things get done. But done on like a big budget film, you're making sure like most of the investment is spent right and stuff. And, and the timeline. You know, you got to do this. You got to get this done by this point with this budget.
It really is. And it's, you know, massive producers like Jerry Bruckheimer, they don't even go to set because they're basically just managing in Los Angeles. So,
got a studio or an office and they're sitting there.
Totally. Yeah. And so when they're building pirate ships for Pirates of the Caribbean, he doesn't get to see any of them. Whereas, you know.
Yeah, that wouldn't be fun. I think being on set is the experience of being there, watching your product get like created.
Yep. Being in the mix. It's fun.
Yeah, I watched one of the movies your executive producer of is Tater Tot and Patton.
Yeah, shot out here.
Yeah. Where was that shot? Well, that was shot in South Dakota.
It was shot over by Pier, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, Andrew Keitlinger. He's a South Dakota filmmaker, and it's a story he always wanted to tell, and it's set right outside of Pier.
The photography, videography, cinematography is getting super saturated.
Yeah.
It is. They're popping up out of everywhere. Everyone's just online watching it. And there are things that you can't learn from YouTube on how to do these things. You do have to apply the knowledge that you have and got, but then you're going to learn so much more.
It's so true. And you can translate those skills. Like one of the reasons we were able to make Napoleon the way we were, everybody was early 20s, and they'd already been on sets so many times because we shot by Salt Lake City, and we call them Mormon-sploitation films. All these Mormon-sploitation movies that are happening, which is like some story from the New Testament that is garbage. They make it for like $100,000, and acting's terrible and all that stuff. But there's something called Family Home Evening in the Mormon culture where the families go out together to do something every Monday night. So they would take these movies theater to theater to theater until it made their money back, and then they could do another one.
That's cool.
So cool, because by the time we were crewing up, we were dealing with people who'd been on 10 sets. And that will happen here because so many people, they're just making stuff.
Yep.
They're all building the chops. So when a movie comes, it will get done and get done well.
Yeah, I put on Facebook, I plan on making my own little short, like I want to do a 6-episode series and then create it all and then put it out so everybody gets involved. And I want to have the community involved. I want to shoot it like businesses to give them a little shout out, but then make a great story. And there's so many people that hit me up about playing parts and being like actors and stuff like that. Yeah. And I'm like, man, there's a ton of people.
There are. I've only geared up to make a movie out here once because I have tons of ideas for them, but you never want to say that it's going to happen until it's actually going to happen, until the money's in the bank. And in the case of the movie that I was gearing up on, money was in the bank. And unfortunately, we lost our lead actor, which collapsed our cast, which was absolute pain. But the point of this diatribe is I got to see what the community would do in response. Our financier said, go shoot in Vancouver. This movie was set in the Black Hills. They're like, look at Whistler. It's similar. And you're going to get a massive rebate. And there's going to be all the gear you need. And I said, the costs will be equal, if not cheaper here. And here's why. There will be no location fees. When we shoot in Vancouver, it's $10,000 a day to shoot at any location. Here, all these locations were shutting down. Like the Elks Theater, which is one of our primary locations, is like, we'll just close up, do whatever you want. When I shoot in a production center like Vancouver or in big cities in the States, SAG is all over it. So anybody who's walking in the background is making $150 a day. And the movie that I was making had 350 extras. But when I called SAG and said, hey, would you please check, your Rolodex? How many South Dakotans you got in SAG? They're like, 1. Great. Can I have free extras? Absolutely. And we needed horses and buffalo, and all this stuff was coming together for free. So the costs were lower and the community support was greater.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want to screw that?
I do.
Little screw.
I want to screw whatever you tell me to.
Right here.
What are we talking about?
And then pick the mic up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it too low?
Yeah. You're a little tall. I'm not used to having anybody on here who's 6'4".
Well, I hunch. How's this? Is this better?
Oh, my God.
Going again. Starting over.
Check. How do you get into the movie business?
There used to be a very long answer to that question.
How did you get into the movie business?
There you go. Different thing right there, right? So I did undergrad in Nebraska studying acting. Then I knew that I had to move to California to make movies. Mm-hmm. And I had a buddy from undergrad who was going to the Academy of Art in San Francisco to study film. And I was like, oh, that's in California. I believe I'll go there and I'll make movies. It's going to be great. So I sold my car for the money to rent a U-Haul and threw a mattress and a motorcycle in the back of it and just drove to SF. And I get there.
That's awesome.
I get there. I'm like, I'm here for the movies. And they're like, wrong city, dude. That's 300 miles away in Los. It's like if you wanted to work at Mount Rushmore, so you moved to Sioux Falls, pretty much is the idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that doesn't happen here, but I was broke as a joke. Yeah. So had to figure it out. And technology was exploding at that time. So had an adventure there and met amazing people and ended up becoming friends with the last ruling family of Iran, which ruled the Iran since the 1300s in the Qajar dynasty, and they got kicked out by the Ayatollah Khomeini. And that was old money, and I'd never met anybody like that before. It was a very different thing than growing up in Edgemont. You may be surprised to learn. And they were the ones who okay, this thing you want to do where you love telling stories, but you also love business, like you're doing in technology, and you're taking an idea, matching it with business and creating something, that's called producing.
Right.
To do that, you got to move to LA. And if you can, you need to get into the University of Southern California School of Cinematic Arts, Peter Stark producing program. So I applied, and I didn't know when I did that they accept 25 out of about 3,000 students. The overall acceptance rate for USC is under 3%. And when I got my acceptance letter, it said, you will be joined by students from Harvard and Vassar and Oxford and Brown and University of Nebraska at Kearney. Like I was which one of these things is not like the other?
Anxiety sets in.
Yeah, it's like, and it really was. It was like, I've got to hide my thing. I don't know the things they know. I've never lived in a city the way they've lived in city. I don't know how to do it. And later,
they probably already have more experience too. So you're just like, man, I got to step it up.
You know what? We were in the producing corps, and they select students based on entrepreneurial spirit, not film production background. So we were all idiots at the same time, and that really let us become siblings. But I would only later learn that this thing I was hiding from everybody, this experience growing up in the sticks, that was actually my superpower.
Kind of secretive about being from the little town.
Yeah, I was really insecure about it.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are. Like, they're like, oh, man, no, I visited here, and I'm from a big city. Yeah. It's like, you really don't got to lie where you're from. Like, it's always better. Plus, you got to remember those lies.
The only real value to telling the truth is that it's easier to remember. I mean, really, you don't have to write on your hand in Sharpie all the time.
Right? Where are you from? It's Slip. Edgemont. Where the fuck is that?
Where's that? Exactly.
It's outside of New York.
It took time for me to realize that, like, any story about going to school or going to work, I worked at Dutoit's Supermarket, which is, a family-owned mom and pop shop. I didn't work for the supermarket. I worked for old man Dutoit. So I had to go rustle cattle after work. I had to go dock sheep and cut the balls off poor unassuming. One time I walked out my front door at my house to go walk to work, and Eva Evans was riding down the street on her horse and is like, you want to ride to work? I do want to ride to work. So I rode to work on a horse. And I realized all this stuff just blows people's minds. And that gives you the one thing that, you want in Hollywood, which is the ability to be different.
Really unique coming from South Dakota. Yeah. It's beautiful out here.
It is.
Some people know about South Dakota. Some people don't. They're like, where's that? They're like, that Mount Rushmore thing? Yeah. I'm like, oh my God, I always want to see that. I hear that all the time.
Well, don't.
Like, well, we don't pay for parking. We just drive by and we're like, oh, cool.
That's true.
That's it.
That's so true.
Go to the backside, get the nose, and leave.
Look at that. This is George's nose. Look at it. Drive. Yeah, it's so true. You know what? You're so right. And people haven't met anyone from South Dakota, so suddenly you have this strange responsibility to be and create the identity of what South Dakota is. I met 2 people in Los Angeles in the first decade and a half I was there that were from South Dakota. And they were from East River.
Oh.
So I had to fix all the crap that they're doing. Like, yeah.
Like, it's beautiful out here. Like, no. It's beautiful over on West River.
Yeah. You got to come over here. We have trees and mountains and not corn.
Yeah.
And it's great.
Mountain lions.
Like,
what do you got over there? You're good.
Corn, trees, mountain, humidity.
Is all the Hollywood hype worth it? Like, to be around all the stars? A lot of people here, they just dream about getting big and doing all this shit that they're doing. Mm-hmm. Is it really worth it?
It depends on what you want in life. And I think it really depends on the individual. I'm not built for it.
Yeah.
And it took me a long time to realize that. I left for California expecting an improvement in my quality of life. I expected, bigger houses and nicer cars and better weather and better food and all that kind of stuff. And that's all out there.
Yeah.
But what I started to realize after a decade and a half of being there is like people who hit the top of their game had these big, huge houses. And there, that means $34 million for a house. And they had a big, huge front yard. And then they had big, huge fences around it with hedges on it. And you saw that as people became more successful, they just became more isolated. And I realized that what I left for was quality of life, but what I wanted was quality in life. And for me, that's community. That's you and I having a conversation before we came in here about the 10 people we both know, or running into somebody at the grocery store, all that stuff. And that's because it's, harkening back to growing up in Edgemont. But for other people, that status fuels them, and it can be found there. I don't envy any movie stars because their anonymity is gone.
Yeah.
And because if you're an actor, you do not control your destiny. You have to wait for the approval of a casting director to get put in front of a director. Then you have to wait for the approval of the director to get a job, and then you get the job, and you have to wait for the approval of the American public to see if you can have another job. And as you know, our pop cultural news cycles are very cyclical. So to hit it and stay there, you cannot separate your identity from your product.
Mm-hmm.
And that will mess you up if you fall out of the thing and you're grasping on that public approval for identity.
I'm just waiting for Dwayne Johnson to do something outlandish and then go plummet.
You know what? Everything's better with The Rock in it. And what's cool about The Rock is, dude, you were a wrestler. Like, you hopped around in your underwear, greased up. So whatever happens in your career, you beat that.
See, I think a one-hit wonder with a lot of movies now.
You think so?
I think, yeah, because I'm not watching, who's it, Jumanji at all.
Well,
there's a lot of people that are like,
should strongly reconsider that.
It's like number 2.
I
heard it was horrible.
Well, I would leave you to be the judge of that. But the first one was gold. It was fired on all cylinders, in my opinion. See, the thing about The Rock is he's in on the joke.
Yeah.
So anyway, but if you want to down The Rock, that's fine. When he comes walking through this door, let's make it very clear. Before he beats you at this table, I'm running out of this because he's the guy.
He's a big dude.
He's a big dude. And I've only ever heard super great, nice things about him. I was at a class at Universal Studios. Our professors at USC are all working in the industry, and we had to end class early because our professor, his name's Lenny Kornberg, whose head was distractingly large. I believe his head was about half the size of his entire torso. And he's like, I got to wrap class early. I got to go have dinner with The Rock. And we're like, what? The professional got to go to, why the hell are you? Because he wants to be an actor. This guy wants to be an actor. And then, kabloom. So, good job, Lenny. And your big ass head. Well done.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good story. So after Napoleon Dynamite, one of the drop dead hugest movies ever, did you find any big obstacles after that? Like to creating the huge product that you just made? Did you find what was the biggest obstacle?
Absolutely. I mean, one of the things that happened was we made something so uniquely weird that it was like, oh my gosh, the same but different. Please make another thing that's uniquely weird. And agencies would send us every weird script they didn't understand and be like, do you guys want to make this? Do you want to make this? Do you want to make this? But then when you'd take that for financing, financiers would be like, I can't finance that. That's weird. Yeah.
Yeah.
It literally is. And that's why we're here. But when Napoleon broke out, I had the opportunity as a producer to raise money for other things. And so I was like, okay, I made a comedy. That was awesome. I want to make a movie in every other genre.
Yeah.
So I went off and made a horror film, and I made a romance, and I made a musical, and I made all these different movies just to see what that was like. And that was a stupid move. When you hit in a genre, you beat that horse until it's dead, and then you resurrect it and you beat it some more. So in terms of branding, yeah, I went the other way, and then I'd have a bigger house. Had I chosen to just stay in comedy. But you may notice that there isn't a sequel to Napoleon Dynamite.
Yeah, that would have been ruined.
That was the risk. We knew that what had been created was kind of special, and you can see that it's different. I don't know if you've ever seen the after credits sequence of LaFonda and Kip getting married. Have you ever seen that? There's after all the credits.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
I did see that.
So we shot that a year later, and already it was different. The tone was different. And so we knew if we tried that for a feature, it would be
That's awesome.
pretty risky. Yeah.
I think a lot of movies get ruined by coming out with a number 2 because they do try and create more money in the bank because the first one was a hit. So let's do it again. Let's make more money. And now all the 80s, 90s movies are getting remade, and I think they're garbage. Like,
yeah. You know why that is?
they should make prequels and sequels, but not remake the movie again.
Yeah.
That's just, they'll leave it alone.
Yeah.
Like if they do Back to the Future, which I heard, yeah, there's no way they should do like a prequel sequel type thing.
Yeah. I think you could do, hi, this is Back to the Future 2. We're redoing it.
Yeah.
Because that one sucks. And nobody will try that. I'm kidding. And I agree with you on prequels. And sequels have gotten so much better than they used to be. They were absolute trash. One of the first premieres I ever got to go to was Blair Witch 2, Book of Shadows. And the director gets up in front and he's like, I just want to thank Lionsgate. They took this from idea to the screen in 9 months. And we're like, oh, God. You spent an hour on the script and it was so bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
that happens.
Blair Witch number 1 was revolutionary on how they shot it.
Yep. Changed everything.
POV. That was
handheld.
The first ever POV shot movie like that. That was so awesome.
Their marketing on that too. I was at Sundance when they sold that, and the marketing was, this might be real. And nobody had found footage movies before. There was no Paranormal Activity at that point. So everybody's like, oh my gosh, is this real? It's shot so badly that maybe, and I don't know if you remember, the title card opening is like, footage was found in upstate Connecticut something. Is there an upstate Connecticut? so that was a huge marketing angle for them. They did $140 million out of it.
Didn't they rent their equipment and then take it back?
They bought it and took it back.
Yeah.
Yeah. They bought all the video cameras and then took them back.
That's genius.
Yeah. A special credit to Best Buy or something.
Yeah. I think that was awesome because, and it wasn't even like the best stuff. It was just like what they got and they made humongous amounts of money.
Yes, they did.
Like people are all about the quality, not just doing like what it is. Like you don't have to have the very best of something to get it done.
Yeah.
Like we're talking on $20 mics.
Yeah. I can hear us. Hopefully the world can too.
Yeah. But yeah, that's like, it's those movies that really made a huge impact. Like your guys' movie with Napoleon Dynamite was worldwide one of the biggest, and it $400,000. But I mean, you guys,
we spent $180,000 on set, and we shot it with 35mm film.
And you guys didn't have CGI and all that stuff. Yeah.
There's one CGI shot in the movie.
Really?
Yep.
What's that?
It's when Napoleon goes to do his current event after he's tossed the action figure out the window, right? And he's going to school. He goes to his current event and it's his turn, and he closes his Trapper Keeper, and written on the desk is Napoleon Dynamite.
Oh.
We didn't have the title anywhere in the movie. We're like, damn, we need a title. So we superimposed Napoleon Dynamite on the desk. Ha-ha!
That's easy.
How's that for a visual effects budget?
Awesome.
How's that? Probably scratched it on the actual film and like, oh, I hope this works.
Here's another like maybe myth that people have heard that I'd like to get the straight answer from you.
I look forward to avoiding this question.
No, it's not that. Kip. when he ran over the Tupperware bowl, it wasn't supposed to like pop and explode, and he just like made that up, like gosh, and drove off. Was that written in or was that made up?
It was supposed to collapse, and then he was going to be like, "Geez," and then drove off. That was the idea, but we did not know it was going to explode. And we're like, one and done. It's a wrap for the Tupperware.
That's pretty awesome.
Because one, we can't afford another one, and two, that was awesome. Yeah.
My favorite part is the old man trying to get the gun to work and shoots the
cow
right in the face and all the kids. That's perfect.
That's based on a true story. It was the direct. Most of the things in Napoleon are in fact based on true stories.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Which, welcome to story time in Los Angeles. When I'm like, and here's what happened with the horse and going to school. No. So what happened was, Jared Hess is the writer director. His brother was waiting for the bus, and sure enough, that guy who played Lyle was across the street with a different cow. And
he's a real guy.
And was getting ready to make some steak, and the school bus showed up, and we were like, "That's amazing." Well, then my sister teaches in Sturgis. She's now a kindergarten teacher. Used to be second grade.
Oh, right on.
They do this thing at Reptile Gardens. Oh, I can't wait to have retribution from Reptile Gardens. Can't imagine how that's going to work out. I'm going to be alligator poop.
I know the guy to talk to about that.
It's going to be fine. And so Bear Country and Reptile Gardens will let kids come in before they open. And in Bear Country, they get to play with like cubs. And in Reptile Gardens, they're like, oh, look at all this stuff. Well, they take these second graders to the boa constrictors. And do you know what they feed boa constrictors?
Rabbits?
I thought it was mice. It's baby bunnies, just like you said. And it was right after Easter. And so you've got all these second graders coming in, and they're like, look, we're going to, and they put a baby bunny in, and they're like,
these kids?
Yeah. And like, little girls are like, what's going to happen? And little boys are like, what's going to happen? And wham, it eats this baby. They're traumatized. So they just get them out of there as fast as they can. They take them in. They're like, okay, this is a garter snake, and it doesn't bite, and it's the best. And for the first time in history, this garter snake launches and attaches to the dude's face who's holding it. And he's like, it's like pulling it away. Blood is running down. And they just pack these kids back into the bus and take off. So,
oh my God.
So like, the Napoleon story is great, but that shit happens in South Dakota.
Shout out Reptile Gardens.
Yeah, shout out Reptile Gardens. They need to give me $5. So it's like, oh, it's a crazy thing that happened in Napoleon.
Oh my
Is
God.
it a crazy thing? Because here's another one.
It would have been better if the bunny was getting eaten ass first, because then you could see its face.
Oh my God. Oh man, when education goes wrong.
Oh, that's so great. Right there would be an awesome movie.
Oh yeah. Hey PETA, remember that time you were mad about us pretending we shot a cow? Watch this.
Real quick, let's take a break. We'll be right back right after this.
Hey, this is Black Hills Podcast. I said block. If you're interested in sponsoring an episode, I stuttered. Okay, if you're interested in sponsoring an episode, email us at blackhillspodcast@gmail.com. Subscribe to Black Hills Podcast on YouTube and like our page on Facebook. Also, don't forget to follow us on Instagram, Black Hills Podcast. And to listen to us, you can listen to us on Spotify and iTunes. If you'd like to support Black Hills Podcast, click the link and either support via PayPal or Venmo. And also to support the podcast, we've got some awesome merch here. Black Hills Podcast is a community-based project funded by viewers like you. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
So, let's talk about another project that you got going on.
Sure.
You got a lot of projects going on. You get inspired and you just roll with it, or
Yeah. I've unfortunately picked up the habit of knowing how to kind of make something from nothing, which doesn't mean that that's a good thing. So when I get an idea, I'm like, aha, and now we're doing this.
Yeah, that's good though.
It's fun.
Gotta stay busy. So you're working on a new project
Yep.
called Porter the Hoarder.
Oh, shifting gears. Let's talk about children's
gears.
Shifting gears. You know those traumatized
From
children?
snake bites on the face. Porter the Hoarder.
Porter the Hoarder. Yes.
So how'd you come across this idea?
So Rebecca Swift created that character, and she's an illustrator. She lives over in Bridgewater, South Dakota. And the Porter character, as you can see, is super duper simple. It's a big round circle with bananas on the sides of her, like pigtails. Yes. Yes. Behold, for those. I wouldn't have picked my nose so many times if I remembered that we also video this.
We do.
Yes. So Porter is a look and find book. It's about this obnoxious little girl, Porter the Hoarder. And in book 1 of 64 books, she has to clean her room. And to do that, she has hidden treasures around. So on one page, you have to help her find 10 snotty handkerchiefs. In the next, you have to help her find lizards that were hit by lightning and all this weird stuff. And then once you found all those things, the book asks, should she keep it? It also does backflips.
That was supposed to happen.
Many people don't know that it's quite agile. So
It makes complete sense right there. That
it's fine.
God. God.
The book is about garbage, and now it is garbage. Farewell, book. So the book asks, should she keep it, should she not? And then the kids respond. I saw a friend of mine, my producing partner, Doc Wyatt, reading a book called Don't Let the Pigeon Drive the Bus with his little kid. And that book, on page 1, it's a pigeon. He's leaving. Sorry, it's like a milkman, bus driver guy, and he's leaving. He's like, I got to go. Whatever happens, don't let the pigeon drive the bus. And this pigeon shows up, and it's just like a crayon drawing, really simple. And for 30 pages, it's just the pigeon being like, I drive the bus. I'd let you drive it. And this kid was losing his damn mind. He's like, no, just going. And I was like, this is amazing. So that, and then I saw I Spy books and how much kids love finding all that hidden stuff. We built the book. It was fun. I was so happy. It's so satisfying to make something I can hold in my hands instead of like, oh, I saw your movie. It's really good. Or I saw your movie. Silence.
Let me grab that book.
That's great. I've got literally 10,000 more where that came from. Success.
Okay. Anyway.
Fail. It's all good. They're built to be beaten. It's all right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we finish up the book, and it's like, sweet, made a book. That's fun. But then end up learning, because it's South Dakota, from just people word of mouth. Oh, there's the United Way is doing this thing, and it's all about childhood reading. And oh, there's a problem with families engaging in early education around reading, and there's a fund that just was created to do that. And suddenly, just because we're 2 degrees separated from everybody, this thing happened. And now, last Thursday, 10,000 copies of this book went to 10,000 first graders all across South Dakota, along with these big, huge events. And there's like reading programs that go with it and stuff to get parents excited. And it became this thing. So it was a bestseller just by virtue of these people who want to help kids get involved in reading. And that allows us to launch book 2, 3, 4, 5 on up to 64. 5 of them are out right now, but we got a ways to go. And then television, and then our app just finished. And
Animated cartoon would be great.
Yeah.
But also, parents these days, not talking shit, but they are really, right nowadays, they put a device in front of their kid rather than a book. Yeah. But it would be great for an animated series so they could watch it also, and then find it and stuff like that.
Absolutely true.
Yeah.
Absolutely true. We're talking to the Where's Waldo guys, because I'm like, how the hell did you turn Where's Waldo into a cartoon? And we've been talking about how look and find works in that. And then the app just finished where you put her through her paces, doing all kinds of crazy stuff, and she has crazy reactions and all that. Yeah. I mean, what we learned with Porter is not just, here's your device, watch it, which is certainly the case. Mm-hmm. It's also, here's a book, go read it. And did you read it? Yeah, it's fine. This you have to read together, and it takes like 7 minutes. Because the problem I learned is really these people are so busy, and they don't know how long it's going to take to sit and read a book with their kiddo. So we address that by making one that's super fast.
Nobody really wants to sit there for a half hour. Anyway, I mean, to get your young child to sit for 5 minutes,
good damn luck. Yeah, you're right. They start fidgeting, jumping around.
Yeah, sometimes better than no time. So it's good just to have 5-10 minutes. That's it.
Yeah.
And then go off and do whatever.
And what happens with this is we do this thing at schools where it's like, oh, we're going to read a book today. And it's up on the wall and kids get up to point at all the stuff that's hidden and blah, blah, blah.
Awesome.
And at the end, it's like, did you like the book? And whether they answer or not, I don't care. And then teacher's like, well, how about you get a book and you get a book, and just Oprah's out, and the kids are losing their damn mind. And then they're like, but guess what? There's homework. And like you feel this like seasonal depression hit first graders who are like, no, homework. What the hell's a first grader know about homework?
Yeah.
And then they're like, but it's not homework for you. It's for your parents. And the excitement they had about getting a book is half of the excitement that their parents just got homework. They go batshit, and they're like, all right, the homework is they have to read with you, and you're the expert, teach them. And we heard consistently, that book comes out, they read it cover to cover, awesome. But then they go back and do it again. And then they do it again. And then the parent hides the book for dinner. And then after dinner, the kid starts reading it to the parent.
Oh.
And they're mastering sight words and kicking butt. So it's doing what we wanted it to do. It's letting kids have fun, and it's causing parents and kids to read together, and it's annoying the shit out of parents. I want it to be the Barney of the 2020s. No, 2021. 2020 can just be done.
The future.
Yes, the future. It is future Barney.
It's really great that what you're doing with your
Oh, thanks, man.
your success and everything for kids. That's great. Also,
Yes.
we got another book here.
A tome. Yeah, Marlon McDougall's Magical Night. It's a Christmas book. It's set at the 1880s train.
Also, I'm kind of blind, so I'm trying to read it.
Squinting one eye.
But yeah. So yeah, go
Yeah.
ahead.
So Marlon, Marlon's it's a Christmas book. It's a Christmas train book, and Polar Express can bite the big one.
Did you see that cover, everybody?
Look at the cover.
It's not Polar Express.
It is not Polar Express, despite the fact that it's a train in Christmas. I was talking to Meg Warder, and she owns the 1880s train over in Hill City.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because people here own trains. That's a thing that happens. What do you know? And she's like, every Christmas and trains, people want the Polar Express, but it's so expensive to license it. She said she couldn't. So she's like, I wish I had my own Christmas train book. So on the drive home that day, I was like, what's cooler than riding a train to the North Pole? I'm like, freaking flying a train is cooler. So this is a story of a kid named Marlon who's always wanted a toy train, but his parents won't give him one because his grandfather, named Angus McDougall, is just crazy, and he works for the 1880s train, and they don't want Marlon to turn out like Angus. And on Christmas Eve, his 12th birthday, his grandpa always said he'd get some amazing present he would never imagine, and ends up being taken with Angus. They go to the 1880s train. He finds out that that's kind of Santa's hub, and Santa flies around the world and stops midway on his journey in Hill City, where his reindeer eat this magical hay that is the reason they can fly. Santa gets milk and cookies all night, he's good. But the reindeer, they eat magical hay, and that's the reason they can fly. So they're fueling up, and Santa jumps on the 1880s train to keep delivering gifts by going up and down the smokestack and into chimneys so he can keep doing the thing while they're refueling. Well, Marlon takes a handful of that hay and throws it into the boiler of the train, and suddenly it shoots this golden smoke out, and it's careening wildly, and he has to figure out how to get it under control. And he does, and he becomes the boy who flies trains and is now part of the Christmas Eve crew forever.
The engineer.
The engineer. Yeah. Angus was the engineer. He's pretty good at it. Now Marlon gets to take over.
Awesome.
And it's a story of self-realization. It's a story of a kid continually, he thinks he's too young to do things. At one point he's like, Grandpa, I can't work on this. I'm only 12. And his crazy ass grandpa's like, well, he's like, I'm just a kid. And his grandpa's like, well, I'd just be a very old man in a very old truck. That's all I wanted to be, but I want something more. And then he runs into Santa, and Santa's like, we want you on the team. And he's like, oh, I can't do that. I'm just a kid. And Santa's like, I'd be a very old man with a very white beard if that's all I wanted to be, but I choose to be something more. And at the end, Marlon steps up because he chose to be something more.
Awesome.
Yeah, is it? Okay, good.
Yeah. Is this available now, or
It's on Amazon. You can get it at a few retailers, but it just released. And as you can see, the style of that is so different than Porter. This is it's like a Thomas Kincaid in its colors, and it's designed as storyboards. I worked with the artist and just laid it out as storyboards because I want it to be a yearly thing, hour-long television thing that continues to perennially pop up.
Oh, nice.
That's plan, man.
It's pretty cinematic too, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Diego Velasquez, who did the illustrations, is a talented guy. That's the key to success. Smart friends.
Oh, well, if you guys got kids out there, this would be great. And Porter also.
And Porter.
Yeah. That's also available on Amazon.
It is. Yep. All 5 of the current books are available on Amazon.
Cool.
Yeah. And over at Mitzi's Books. Go over to Mitzi's. You can get both of them at Mitzi's.
What's in the future? What do you got lined up?
You make a good point.
What movie are you going to make?
I have no idea. You know, it's all to shift gears from children's books.
Yeah.
We say it's all BS until you're standing on set. And that's so true. When I geared up to make Matt Epic was the name of that movie Out Here, I was like, dude, we're set. We're going. And then it vanished. And it's like, you know what? I did the one thing I never wanted to do. I got everybody excited and it didn't happen. So I've got a horror film set in Deadwood. I've got a television series set in Deadwood. I've got another television series set out on the reservation, which is pretty rad. And I've got another comedy. And then a bunch more of those books and developing the books out into media properties too.
Good, man. You're busy.
Yeah.
Deadwood would be an awesome place to shoot a horror film.
So cool.
Oh my God. Like, I can't believe hasn't been done.
I know.
So
right.
good
Yeah.
luck on that.
So thanks. I'll tell you a bit about it if you want to hear about it.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Give us the inside scoop.
It's called The Tunnel Keepers. And it's the story of a gal who's fled a domestic violence situation with her little girl. This is a horror film, by the way, not a comedy.
Just don't give us the end.
Let's frame it.
Just
Well,
don't give
you
us
know,
the
if it
end.
never gets made, you'll be like, oh.
All right, no, go ahead.
What a
Give it
fulfilling
to us.
story.
Give it to us.
No. So they flee this situation in Detroit, getting away from an abusive husband who's a cop, and they got to go off the grid. So they end up out here in Deadwood, and they can pay cash to rent a house, and they end up getting a house that's like the Adams Museum kind of, and it's fully decked out, and it's dirt cheap.
Yeah.
And immediately haunty stuff starts happening. Ooh, haunted stuff.
Yeah.
The top floor is like a proscenium ballroom, which was definitely a parlor of ill repute back in the day. Mm-hmm. And like in the servants' kitchen, there are these bells that are hooked to cords that go to every room in the house. You know, you can see, green bedroom and blah, 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 blah. But there's none for the proscenium ballroom upstairs. And little girl Izzy, who's about 14, is just looking around, kind of, finding all this. So hunting stuff starts happening, but it's like pleasant hunting stuff. Suddenly, all of Izzy's clothes are put away, and all these things, and it's
minor things here.
Yeah, benevolent spirit.
Yep.
Then finally, in the ballroom, Izzy finds this hidden door and opens it up, and it's all the costumes for the girls.
Of course she does.
Of course she does.
If you didn't have a
Why
hidden
would
door,
the tropes? Why would you move to Deadwood? And there's a tassel in there that's all covered in spiderwebs and stuff. And she pulls this, but it doesn't ring any bells in the kitchen. And we follow it down. It goes into the basement. It goes behind this massive boiler, and back behind the boiler, there are tunnels that are networked all through Deadwood for real.
right? Yeah.
Right, and it was basically a way to move your mistress, but also stay out of the weather of winter. Mm-hmm. So we go behind the boiler, and it's that tunnel, and we go into this inky blackness as the bell is ringing down there. That's where it's hooked to. You see this charred hand claw forward, and a bunch of them. And
So it woke it.
They woke it. It has been woken. Yes, awakened. And suddenly, violence. Like Izzy's getting shoved out of windows, and everything's not. It's just going crazy. Well, we come to learn that the benevolent spirit is actually the madam of the old whorehouse, and the vicious spirits are Japanese girls who, back in the day,
We're forced.
Yeah. And so they were, when they had syphilis, they were all burned to death, and so they're actually trying to get the women out to protect them from this woman. And then in the end, the I'll tell you then. The cop returns, finds the people, and is gonna harm his wife who fled. And by now, Izzy has become strong and a woman and stands up to him, and in doing so, becomes the strongest female force in the house, which then controls those spirits, and they just eviscerate him. And she becomes the tunnel keeper, and so they can get bad guys. Gnarly.
I like it.
And credits.
I like it, man. That's awesome.
Thanks. Yeah. Another one called Merchant of Death, which I'm excited about out there. And then the one on the reservation is called Carried by Six.
Did you ever watch Deadwood?
Yeah.
I thought that was really great.
Brilliant.
I loved it.
Yeah. Not a freaking frame shot in the Black Hills.
Really?
Yep. It's scrub brush out. I went to the set where they did it. Mm-hmm. And it's scrub brush in Southern California. It feels right. You
really couldn't shoot. You could shoot it somewhere out in the hills, but not in Deadwood anyway, because it looks nothing like it was.
Totally.
Anyway. Yeah.
I thought that was so cool that the town is just like it would have been. It's all just new lumber. And then in 1900, there was a massive fire, took everything down, which is when they rebuilt with sandstone and stuff. Wow. I just want to tell you about all these other fun, like the television project, Merchant of Death. I want to tell you about that, but none of it will matter if I don't get that shit done. So probably should get to work on it.
Yeah, have you ever taken on too much of a workload and then stress yourself out too much, and you can't step back once you say okay?
Yeah,
it's
man.
tough.
It's a lifestyle job. You can't separate your work. And that was something that was happening to me in Los Angeles that was causing me to burn out a little bit. Like having not grown up in a big city and working in a job that consumes you and you want it to.
Yeah.
The second my eyes would pop open in the morning, I was at work, and the same would be true until I'd pass out that night. So here I get a little bit of distance to prioritize a bit more. But, film producing, it's a very, very fulfilling thing when you get to make a movie. But it's not a sleep good at night job. I'm not splitting wood all day, which
running
is
through your head.
Yeah. It can be a sleep bad at night job.
Yeah, even if you write it down and you got things in order, you're like, okay,
oh, it's so true.
Something else.
It's so true. I have a whiteboard in my bathroom right outside the shower because I'll just be talking to myself in the shower. That's a good idea.
Yeah. Being overworked really messes like with your stress, your life, your family, your friends, your relationships.
Yep.
It just it starts to bury you in a way that you really don't pay attention to until you get a chance to step back, but you really don't because you're so consumed by work. Mm-hmm. You're just like, this is normal. This is life. This is what you got to do. Step back, and then you realize, wow, like I really need to take a step back, and your relationships get better, your friendships, you get more time to yourself.
Objectivity.
Yeah.
It's so true. They, say do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life because you'll work every day. You know what I mean?
You can do that, but if you do what you love, like you need to learn how to control,
balance,
how your life is going. Yeah, you do need balance big time. And people are like, no, I work hard to do this and that. Like, well, your family, you seeing them, your friends. You do have to create relationships. As a human, it is healthy to have a beer and just chill out and talk for a bit and have the time to do that stuff, because then your mental health really starts to plummet.
Yeah, it's true. And that's another thing that I love about being back in the Black Hills. We don't have a keeping up with the Joneses mentality here. Mm-hmm. When I see somebody I saw a Lamborghini come through and I was like, you poor bastard. You're going to rip your oil pan out on a pothole in Deadwood. Somewhere out here. And you can't get an oil change in a state that touches this state, whereas in Los Angeles, you see that and you're like, oh, I gotta hustle. I gotta have a $250,000 car. I gotta do this. And it's constant pressure that's being reminded from the outside. Here, no, you don't want to be that guy. And here you get that thing where you run into friends at the grocery store. When I'm in Los Angeles, I schedule to hang with my friends 2 weeks out, and we reschedule on each other twice. It's just what you do. Yeah. Here I get a text like, hey, we're meeting at the veranda in 10 over in Deadwood. And I'm like, sweet, let's pop over. Yeah. So, better life.
It is a way better life. I think I know people who don't appreciate the Black Hills. Like they say, I hate this place, I want to move, I want to do this, there's no opportunity here and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. You need to move. You need to go away and then find your appreciation to really love this place, or you'll find what you're looking for out there. And either way, it's going to work out. But there's people around here that they say people aren't real. It's not great. It is, man. I love this place. And I agree. I've lived somewhere else, and I've found my appreciation.
Yeah, and that's it. I think you nailed it. I mean, the worst thing you can have in your life is not loving where you are. Yeah. And the best thing you can have is loving where you are, be that in your life state, be it with your finances, be it, in my opinion, geographically. But you did it. You did this. You lived here. You went out, and you came back to it. They say it takes a village to raise a child. Well, the child hates that. I hated being raised by I snuck out once my entire high school career and met up with Bob Ray Bradford down on Main Street. We're like, what do you want to do? He's like, I don't know. So we went home, and by 8 a.m. there were 5 phone calls saying Sean was out running around last night. Like the village pissed me off, and I was like, I'm moving away. I had my mullet. I was the bass player of Screwdriver Lobotomy. I was fostering my professional skateboarding sponsorships in a town with mostly gravel roads. Like it did not go as far as yours. It did. I had a half pipe in the backyard, which I couldn't afford lumber, so the city let us go into condemned buildings and knock out walls. You know what you shouldn't let 14-year-olds do? Go into condemned buildings to knock out walls. But whatever, Wild West. So built that, and I was like, I'm out of here, I'm done. And it took me a decade to realize what was wonderful, and coming back to it, that's what it's all about.
It is, man. It's a magical place.
It is. That road goes both ways. If you don't like it, here go. And maybe the magic will pull you back.
I really think so too, yeah. And they're like, well, our job wouldn't let us do it. I'm like, you couldn't afford living out there anyway. You better appreciate what you got here. You got running water, your health, your family, your friends. Like, it's not bad.
It's true. It's true. And I have found universally, you can be broke anywhere.
You can.
So go be broke there for a while.
It's harder being broke out there than it is here.
It is, but it is the same broke. So if you want to see what that life is, you're not going to die. We live in a great country. Go give it a go.
Yeah.
And you won't wonder. And that's the worst, is that itch you never scratched.
Yep.
Yeah. We're very smart. You and I have figured it all out. Look how smart we are.
I don't know. I like to talk to my friends about, a lot of us older dudes have found that we're all happy and we're very content. Mm-hmm. It's not like we settled. We've done it. We've left. We've done this. We've done that. Mm-hmm. They're finding the careers that they want to do. They're finding real happiness. Yeah. And it's like they just go for it. Like they're getting rid of everything, at an age where it was like the late 20s. They got rid of everything to do what they wanted. Yeah. And I think a lot more people need to be. They always talk about they have hit rock bottom, but you really haven't when you do get rid of everything to do what you want. That's like scary because you don't know if you're going to get successful or not. You're going to get some shitty job, but you got to do it.
Yeah, a leap in the net will appear.
Yeah.
That's a thing. It is. And you know what? I envy people who have a sane job, who have a 9-to-5er, and who have the balance with their family and all that kind of stuff. And it's just innately part of them. Like when I was moving from Edgemont, I'm like, oh, you're so close-minded. It's so small town. And now I'm like, oh my God, 4th generation ranchers who never wanted to bail and have had peace here the whole time. Good job.
Yeah.
You're winning.
They didn't have to learn by trial and error.
Yeah.
They already knew that they loved what they did.
And that's wonderful. You and I had to go walk the world to figure it out, but it's good to know.
Pulling yourself apart to trying to find the pieces and put them together to do what you want to do.
Yeah.
It is a mess. It kind of makes you a mess. And then when you talk to somebody who's done that, you do find you guys have something in common because it is hard.
Yeah.
On every aspect of your whole life. But it's go out and try it.
Do it. Why not?
Do it.
You can be poor anywhere.
Sell everything. Yeah. And fucking go. All you need is a car, an air mattress, maybe. Not even that. Just a car. I, slept in my car. I was fine.
Yes. I slept in my U-Haul for 2 weeks when I moved to San Francisco because the line for an apartment was so long. You couldn't even get an apartment. You got like a room in the apartment. I was paid $900 for a room, and it had a closet in it that was big enough to put like a platform. And my buddy I was telling you about, who was going to film school, he lived in the closet. He paid $100 to live in the closet.
Man, that is tough. But look back on that, you get more of an appreciation for where you're at in life.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
Now I wake up and I'm in Deadwood, and I look out the window and I can see a bazillion acres of pine trees, and I freaking love it. And when my friends in Los Angeles with all the craziness are like, dude, is it great out there? I'm like, you like guns? They're like, no. Well, then maybe it's not for you.
Well, that's guns different. Everybody out there has guns, like cell phones, but here it's more like of a sport, like a it's a hobby.
It is, and there it's out of fear. And here it's out of fun. Yep. Man, I fell in with a group of crazies over in Beulah, home to the Testicle Festival. Small town. And these guys are amazing. They are like doomsday preppers of the 9th degree. They've built, because they all come from rancher families. And they're just so cool. One of them took a backhoe and built like a shooting range, which is great, but then got a hold of some old police car at an auction. So that's there. And they have all this other stuff. And they like to they have themed shooting weekends. And the last one was casino weekends, where they get YouTube videos and they're like, we will now be reenacting this scene from The Sopranos. As you can see, Chris is shot 3 times in the car and then rolls out, pulls a gun with his offhand, and then shoot.
That's awesome.
And the best is, like, some of them are Marines, so they get up and give this range talk at the beginning. All right, all barrels down range, all guns are real and loaded. And then like, and now some somersaults. And this is called Tenorite, and we're going to blow up that stove. And it's like, you guys are amazing. You remind me of, can you handle one more story? I don't want to tax your tolerance.
Let's go.
Okay, so you put the mic here, man. It's your fault.
No, let's go, dude. Podcast freedom, man.
There you go. When I was a kid in Edgemont, my grandpa I'm 6'4", he was 5'2", And he
He's like my height. I'm like 5'5".
It's good. You can dunk on my grandpa. Yes. Yeah. He worked on the railroad as like a dude in the offices and was just this nice, kind of happy guy. And I knew that he had a history in the military.
Oh.
And I knew he'd gone the distance, but I didn't know what that meant. I was like probably 10 or 11 at the time of this story, let's say. And one day he's like, there's a National Guard thing going on, and I think it'd be fun to go out there. I was like, okay. So we get in the old Travelall, the old international powder blue Travelall that we go deer hunting in, and he's got his green Burlington Northern windbreaker on and his little flat cap, and he's going. We come in down some back road out by Red Canyon, and I noticed there's these huge like lumps that are covered in camouflage netting. And see that they're earth moving equipment and like all kinds of stuff. And
yeah.
That's weird. And then this freaking Jeep comes barreling down with MPs, and they are honest like white on rice. And I'm terrified, right? Because these guys have M16s. Yeah. And they're coming over. It's a young guy who's just pissed. And then this old salt who's with him. And the young guy's like, what do you think you're doing out here? And the old salt looks over and sees my grandpa. And it was like lightning hit that dude. He stood up to attention and saluted so fast because my grandpa was a colonel.
Oh, nice.
And I didn't know that. I didn't know what the hell that meant.
Wow.
So we go in and like it's stand at attention for everybody's, this respect is coming down on my grandpa. And like as a kid, my mind is blown. And we go and get to go through the mess line and I, got to eat an MRE, which is awful, but so cool. and
What experience.
Sorry. And then he was like, you want to see some guns, kid? It's funny you mentioned I do. So we go into, I don't know why they have a munitions depot there, but you go in and this dude with arms like trees is holding this M16 while I'm behind it and I get to shoot it and my shoulder's like and he's holding it like perfectly and I'm just laying waste to trees and things.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and I'm like 10. And from
That's
that day
sweet.
on, anytime I saw Grandpa, I was like, wow. And he'd slowly let stories kind of go like, oh yeah, one time we were on a merchant marine ship and we got torpedoed and only about 12 of us made it. And we were on a life raft for 2 weeks. And I'm like, what? He's like, the whole time we caught one barracuda and we would sit and talk about, getting steaks and I'm going to have all the, and then the Australian Coast Guard found us and it was the only time I was in the infirmary, he said, in my entire military career. They'd take us in. And those cheap sons of bitches bring this half a teacup of chicken broth. And I'm like, you sumbitching Australians. And he said, I couldn't finish half that thing because he was so dehydrated.
Oh, yeah.
And it took him so much time to get him back. That's not a story I have. You know what I mean? That's not a story anybody has. And so when your cool, round-bellied grandpa has that legacy behind him. And in South Dakota, you see that a lot.
A lot of
history.
Grandparents around here from our generation have some amazing stories because they grew up around the time when the war was kind of over, World War II, like the 40s and stuff like that. And around here in South Dakota, we did have a big part in the post-war getting Germans over here. They worked in the sugar beet fields. Yeah. For those people that don't know.
That's incredible. The stories about the corn plants popping up,
Yeah.
That's so great. Because they wouldn't eat corn. Because like, what the hell's with Americans and corn? So they would put it in their pockets and go try to throw it out at the edge of the, the camps. So suddenly there's corn popping up everywhere. What's the problem?
Yeah, it's a really big thing around here that my grandpa from Mexico, like straight Mexico, came here in the 40s, worked in the sugar beet fields with all the Germans that only spoke German because they were, Nazis and stuff like that. And my grandpa just worked with them because they made good money, and he ended up staying here and got a visa. I'm pretty sure he's already gone. So, I mean, he can't really deport him. So.
Good luck.
Salute, Grandpa. But, yeah, man, he did a good job. And, yeah, he had so many stories about South Dakota, how it flourished during World War II. Yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot of history there.
And that stuff's not written down.
Yeah, no.
You gotta find it by talking to people.
Yeah, you gotta talk to the old folks around here.
Oh shit. Okay. One more movie pitch. Okay. So there's this dude, this rancher, and he's in Hill City, and he got a hold of this barn, and he has tricked this barn out to be the most. He's got a bar from Selby, an old like wooden carved bar that's in there, best stock bar in South Dakota, and just all these cool things, memorabilia he's collected. So I go in there and I'm kind of shooting the shit with him and some other people that are around there, and they all start telling me stories about growing up, and like we've been talking about crazy crap that's happening. A lot of stuff like, oh yeah, we had this guy. It was a Native American dude who was talking about it. He's like, when I first moved here, bunch of rednecks take me out, and I'm just drinking Coors Light all night long. And all night they're like, "You're gonna ride a bronc tonight. It's a full moon night." And he's like, "Oh, I don't know what to do." He's like, "You're an Indian. You're riding a horse." He's like, "I don't want to do this. This is awful." And they get him out to the chutes and they put him on. He's like, "All right, I'm gonna smack this thing in the ass and I'm gonna open that chute. You better hang on for your life." And he wanted to be cool. Yeah, it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun. And sure enough, whap, and they opened that gate and it was a cow, and it just kind of walked out. And he's terrible. And so, you hear that, and then you hear the crazy. I got thrown by this and blew up Tenorite stuff. So I wanted to create a show called Tales of the Full Blood Moon, because I'm told that broncs are never at their craziest than when there's a blood moon. And it's guys sitting in that bar just telling stories, but it's kind of like drunk history.
Right.
Then we get our stuntmen who have to do whatever it is they're talking about in that story. And it's like the Jackass crew, but they're terrified. They're like, "I don't want to get on I don't want to blow stuff up with Tenorite. I don't want to jump out of an airplane with a homemade parachute.
I want to jump on a horse.
Yeah.
1,000-pound animal. Anything like, oh, wow.
Yeah, that would be a cool show, I think.
That would be a great idea. Yeah. Like stories from South Dakota, just line them up and start knocking them down with these dudes.
Yeah,
sign me up.
Come out of the woodwork.
Sign
you
me up,
in?
Sean.
Are you in? I love it. This is going to be great.
I'm pretty ballsy.
You're pretty ballsy.
I learned by trial and error, but whatever. I've done a couple of stupid things in my life.
Had a good run. It's all fine.
I'm pretty sure a lot of you out here listening have done some stupid things in your life.
Yeah.
So
that's beautiful.
That's if our generation had cell phones that we could have recorded some of the things that we did, it would have been great.
Can you imagine?
But then it would have came back and bit us in the ass as adults now, too.
I mean, we both had mullets growing up. Like, I can hide that. I can live that. That doesn't exist. And had there been Facebook, just even living down bad haircuts was not possible.
All the kids now have cell phones.
Yep.
Technology.
Yep.
I think their intelligence is definitely ahead of any of us when we were that age because of technology. The things they get to see, the things they get to interact with. They got PS4, Minecraft. It's like that's like AutoCAD.
Yeah.
So
yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And it's all available, and their problem-solving skills are just increasing exponentially because any problem you have in the universe, you will not be original. You can pop it into the Google, and you'll have a YouTube video on how to solve absolutely anything. Escaping from jail, fine. Rebuilding an internal combustion engine, no problem. Whatever you need is gonna be there.
it is.
And that is, you can innovate in ways that have never been imagined, and that's great. And we see it at USC. I teach now at USC every spring, and those kids have such an inherent understanding of cinematic language already.
Wow.
That it's not about here's where you put the camera and here's what a movie is. It's about what is the story that you want to tell. Let's talk about the process of telling it because you've got the tools. And that's awesome. That'll make a lot of perspectives come to light that weren't there before.
Oh, for a while there, movies were in a creative rut, and since the pandemic happened, I think it gave a lot of time for studios to shut down and start going back to pre-production, like running over scripts again, and everything got a little better. They really came out with some great shows on Netflix, and I hope that kind of stays because I was really I couldn't find any. I'm a really stickler with anything that I watch. One of the greatest all time ever. My favorite series that ever shot was Band of Brothers.
Yeah.
It makes you feel like you're there, and it's shot so great.
Yeah.
And then they came out with Hollywood on Netflix.
Okay.
It was amazing.
Did you like it?
I loved it. It was shot great and everything. The story, like, because there were true stories about some of the people in Hollywood and stuff, but they couldn't give out the names, but it was pretty real.
Yeah.
And then Messiah.
I haven't seen it.
Oh, my God. That is just at a time when everybody's losing faith. And for all the religious people out there, too, like if Jesus were to come back, there was no way anybody would believe. Like,
absolutely true.
They would do it all over again. They would kill his ass, and we'd start back all over from day one.
Yep.
So
Yep. True fact.
Yeah, the Messiah's really good. Check it out.
Check it out. I guess I'm told because it's good. You're absolutely right. I mean, it's a golden age. It's a golden age of television.
Yeah.
And when we talk about movies getting stale or we talk about a lack of creativity, what we're really talking about is CYA, cover your ass. And if you got to step up for a $200 million budget, the one thing you don't want is to get fired if it fails. So you say, you know what? We're going to make the Slinky movie because you know about Slinkies. I know about everybody knows about Slinkies. We're going to make a Slinky movie. And if it bombs, you're like, I don't Slinkies. You know about Slinkies. Use this whole thing. So you make Avengers and you make all these Marvel movies, which are exceptional. And you make movies based on pre-existing properties. That's how you cover your ass when you're trying to get international audiences to pay off a $250 million budget with another $250 million on it for prints and advertising. But that's a buy a ticket business model, whereas Netflix is a subscribe model. And the way that they're going to get subscriptions, obviously, is to be the ones that have the most newest and differentest stuff. It's like HBO was.
Yep.
And so when you do that, suddenly you can take all kinds of risks.
Yep.
You know how it is. Like you pop onto Netflix and I almost go completely catatonic because I'm overwhelmed with the number of choices. And I'm like, I don't know which button to push.
I think they need to change up that format.
Tricky. Well, what happens is stuff like we're doing right now, which is talking about, The Messiah. I haven't seen Messiah. I want to go check that out.
I think after a couple weeks, something's on there, it gets shoved in the back, and then you got to scroll in order to find things. And that's really, really tough for even independent filmmakers to make money off of series and stuff like that.
Breaking through that.
There are so many companies that are going independent too. There's a huge amount of independent filmmakers making movies, big movies now. So I don't see a lot like the big production companies. They're coming out with the same bullshit that they have been. But independent movies now are taking over. Like, they go straight to Netflix.
It's cyclical.
Yeah.
When the year before we made Napoleon, there were 9 film sales at Sundance. Last year, there were 87 because that content market is hungry and because, you buy a movie for $5 million, it's cheaper than making one for 50.
Yeah.
So the bottom line is different. Yeah. Yeah, man. Can be a good thing. We hope it works out. It's funny about Netflix, to pull it back to Napoleon for a hot second.
Yeah. Love that movie.
Thanks. They called it the Netflix or the Napoleon paradox. So Netflix had $1 million competition for software developers to come in and refine their algorithm so that it would be much more accurate for the if you like this, then you'll like this. And the competition lasted for a year. And the only movie they couldn't correlate to if you like this, then you will like this, or if you hate this, then you'll like something else was Napoleon Dynamite. They eventually had to throw it out. Because they're like, we cannot find people who like this movie. You cannot guarantee they're going to like these. And people who hate it, you can't. Yeah. So they had to throw it out of the mix in order to get their algorithm.
I think it would be in the same category as Super Troopers.
Honored to be there. There was a box set of Napoleon, Juno, and Super Troopers. And I was like, damn, that's good company.
Juno. Okay.
A great movie.
Juno is another low budget, huge movie that made it. Yep. And I thought that was a great movie.
Great movie.
I loved it.
Great movie. It's quirky dialogue and quirky characters and super simple and small. Also released by Fox Searchlight, who released Napoleon, but they did it in-house. They acquired Napoleon out at Festival. They did Super Troopers in-house. It was Jason Reitman, who's Ivan Reitman's son, and Ivan Reitman did Ghostbusters and all these amazing.
Oh yes,
produced Ghostbusters and all these Caddyshack and all these amazing movies. Anyway,
yeah. You got any tips for anybody out there that wants to get in the film industry, make movies? Go ahead.
Yeah.
Give them some insight on taking that first step.
Do the damn thing.
Yeah.
That is the advice, because you can. It's cheaper than it ever has been, and story wins. Visual effects are cheaper now than they ever have been, and you can do cool locations and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, pay attention to the story and make the movie that you haven't seen. And naturally, you're going to run into cliches. It's my horror film. I got to have the shower scene or whatever. Stop for a second and say, okay, what's a new way to show that?
Yeah.
What have I not seen before? And if you stay focused on that, what have we not seen before? You're going to make something special. And that's the key to breaking into film. It's not to do what the studios are doing cheaper. It's to do the thing that studios are not doing. So explore those characters in those worlds. And in the Black Hills, you have ample opportunity to see things that aren't seen on screen.
Creativity is golden. Like, if you got creativity, you'll make something great. But
if you make something.
Yeah. If you just replicate like what they're doing in Hollywood for something that you wrote that you think is different, it's just going to end up never being seen.
Yeah. It's just going to get swept away because it's generic. True fact. You got to do it, though. You can't talk about doing it.
Right.
You got to do it.
You got any tips for anybody that wants to get into acting?
Yes. Move to Georgia.
Georgia?
Yep.
What's up in Georgia?
I know. And it is the most, that one drops smiles on faces more than anything else. Move to Georgia or New Orleans. In Los Angeles, you'd think that's where you go. But you're competing against literally millions of actors.
Right.
Literally millions. We shot a movie in New Orleans where there's a much leaner acting pool, but New Orleans and, well, Louisiana and Georgia both have huge film incentives. Like Walking Dead shoots in Georgia. All these movies shoot in Georgia because they'll give you a check for 40 cents on the dollar back. So there's huge reasons to go out there and shoot. But there isn't infrastructure and there aren't a lot of actors. So at one point in our movie in Louisiana, we're jamming on all these other things. I had a role I needed to fill. It had 20 lines, but they were scheduled all over the place in the schedule. So it didn't make sense to fly somebody from Los Angeles back and forth and back and forth.
Right.
And so I was like, well, we got to hire local, but I don't have time to really audition anybody. I turned to the casting director. I was like, who's good for this? He pulls up 3 headshots. He's like, these are great actors. They have a good look. Which one do you want? I'm like, middle one. Go.
Wow.
Yeah. So
You got the part.
boom, done. I
Oh my
have not
God.
met you, but I know that your look is good. And I know that this person who's the local casting director, and there are 4, says you can act, then you're good. And she was exceptional.
That's awesome.
Exceptional. So when you go live in those production centers, you've got more opportunities, less competition. Go to Georgia or Louisiana.
Wow. That is,
It's the way to do it.
yeah, that is awesome. All right, man. Well, and on that note, everybody, thanks for listening. Or if you're watching on YouTube, thanks for watching.
Yeah, and thank you for having me here
Sean
at the Black
Covel.
Hills Podcast. I love it.
Salute to you, mister. Thank you for everything
man.
that you've done. Thank
Been
you
an
for
honor.
bringing us the Mr. Napoleon.
Well, I will take credit for all of it. Nobody else was involved in that
No, there
movie
were so
at
many
all.
people involved. Credit to all you
actors.
guys, but honestly, man, it's a teamwork, and without somebody in an element, it probably wouldn't have been the same. And thank you,
You're kind of sick.
everybody. Take care.
Bye.
Later.